Hey everybody, how's it going? So I made a post this morning about searching for a house and what that experience is like if you've got issues like we all do, especially anxiety. Um, I always preface this by saying that if anybody's watching this and does not have a mood disorder or maybe has a loved one, that you always have to think about these descriptions in terms of massive amplification where it's tuned up beyond a very healthy level. So, normal people are going to have, quote, quote, anxiety over moving. But us special, messy people, it's it's a whole different ball of wax when it comes to having anxiety about that stuff. So, I share this in jest, but also just to share openly about, kind of what goes through my head, and maybe you guys can relate. I think for me, I've not really been by design. I consider myself a fairly flexible person where I'm not stubborn necessarily. You could ask my wife; she may tell you otherwise. But I'm not really set in my ways. I've got strong beliefs and convictions, but I tend to be a person that, can go with the flow. My illness has affected some of that. In fact, in many ways, a lot of it having to do with routine and just things sometimes happening quicker than I can respond. I'm not able to be efficient. So the magnitude of a move and just what that looks like, I talked some in a video I have not published yet about my story. And one of my stories was going through a massive amount of financial pain being a business owner, and we had to sell our house to kind of get things buttoned up and rented a house for a while, there's no problem with that. There's no shame in that. That's totally fine. But, inevitably we didn't want to rent a house forever, and we're now at a place where trying to find a new location and destination to kind of settle down with our kids and hopefully, not have to move until, God willing, we're ready to downsize into something smaller when we're retired, maybe. So this is a big, big decision. This is like, the forever house, and there's a lot at stake here. There's a lot, that, we're trying to juggle as far as priorities in terms of budget, in terms of location, in terms of where his kids are going to have school, because this is where they'll go to school for the duration of where they're, growing up. It's a lot of pressure. And on top of that, if I look at this in terms of my controlling it, I am the guy that brings home the bacon as far as sales. So there's all this pressure in me that I know now if we step up our game, God has to provide, and I need to be able to do my part. This is gridlock. I'm excited about it, but like the thought of the pressure and all of that stuff just about broke me in half yesterday. And again, I'm not telling you this because I want pity or I want like you to feel bad for me or anything. I appreciate your support and stuff when I go through stuff. But again, I'm sharing this more because I want you guys to feel okay that when this happens, it's all right. It's normal. And for me, it's even therapeutic to talk about it because I'm scared to death. I know God has a plan. I know I've talked about that. I know trusting in Him and guiding us and using Him, and I do. I pray very hard to do that. But my tendencies, because of my mood disorder, is to worry about the worst case scenario and kind of go down this rabbit trail of the adjustments I'm going to have to make in terms of how I operate, and knowing that for probably 6 to 9 months, it's not going to be totally settled in, and there's going to be stuff, and it's going to be just out of my, normal comfort zone. And so knowing that is what causes the anxiety to go off the ledge, because it's not just about I'm getting a house. It's about how this is going to affect me for the next 9 months. And how can I get settled in so I'm not uncomfortable anymore? So that transition, yeah, it just, even when I think about it now, it just makes me want to throw up. I am excited. You know, it's a part of our life. There's a part of that journey that's good. It's just, unfortunately, this kind of sucks some of the enjoyment out of it. God bless my wife. You know, I broke down to her yesterday, and she was supportive, and she was sympathetic, and just kind of helped with me and prayed with me and stuff, just because this is beyond just being worried. This is just like gridlock physically and emotionally, and you have to be able to work through that. So part of what I'm doing is obviously the prayer, but then being able to process this with someone that you love, prayerfully working through that, focusing on truth, trying to take it one day at a time. That's one of the Bible verses I've shared. It's in, I think, the book of Matthew, where Jesus is like, look, you just need to worry about one day at a time. Really. Don't worry about anything further than that. That's all each day is going to take care of itself. And there's another verse, obviously, about, I mean, why are you worrying? I mean, of course God's going to take care of you. Does not He take care of the birds and the fish and all the animals and stuff? It sounds silly, but it's like, why would you not think I would take care of you? I mean, doesn't mean that, like, you know, because I lost my house and I have to go to a rental, God's still taking care of us. It just looks differently than maybe what we thought it would be. Or if I lost a lot and you go, I mean, you're scraping by and you're barely got food on the table and a roof over your head. But that's, honest to goodness, like, if there's anything that I learned through this experience of having more and having very little, is made me appreciate the very, very, very simple blessings that God bestows on us. And that is just to have a roof over your head. There's a lot of people that don't even have that. And to have food on the table, and to, like, I mean, good gravy. Like, we have all this stuff like iPhones and things, and I'm a big tech geek. And it's like, that's all luxuries. And we kind of sort of get into this narcissistic, like, oh, I'm entitled to that stuff. I deserve all these things. We don't deserve anything. We're just, I mean, to me, that's the pitfall. And when we get into that selfish mentality, that feeds our anxiety and our depression, because we feel like we are, you know, somewhat deserving of some level of perfection, you know, something that's supposed to just, you know, make us not experience some of this discomfort. And whether we like it or not, I think a lot of it has to do with how we deal with it and how we manage it. And I talked to a good friend of mine the other day, just like, who struggles with stuff. And he's like, how do you know, Jay, are you crazy? I mean, you're talking about this, you're open about it. Like, aren't people thinking you're a nut job? And I'm like, no. I said, honestly, the most liberating part of this is I'm just being myself. And just saying, look, I got 4 mood disorders, and that's okay. It isn't fun. Kind of sucks. You know, there's times like yesterday where I'm having great days, and, you know, for a week and a half, 2 weeks, I don't have a bad symptom, and boom, I get hit by a freight train one day. But it's not the end of the world. The sun shines again. I wake up today, and, you know, I mean, I'm starting to progress through these feelings of anxiety and worries about the house and stuff. So I try to live by the mantra that things are never as bad or as good as they seem. You know, it's like, otherwise, that's where bipolar especially sucks you in, because you think things are like you're on top of the world, and then you're at the bottom of the barrel thinking the world is ending. So I think if you try to make choices to say, look, even if it's great, I'm not going to go over the top. And I think, you know, for me, being in sales and living, you know, 18 years of selling, where I've had plenty